Pacific Weaving was started in 1977 by my father, Andy Summer, to supply American designers and wholesalers with quality fabric. There's hardly any mills left in America, let alone in California. The looms are running, almost 40 years later. Of course, we've added newer computerized modern machines that are capable of large production runs. By mill standards, we are quite small, and yet we're flexible. We are able to produce large quantities of fabric. Using natural fibers, as much American yarn as we can, producing high quality fabric in California.
Our fabrics are kind of the classic standards that certain customers have had in their line for 20 years. We start with trying to select the highest quality natural fiber yarns we can to produce our fabrics. We carry a large amount of dyed yarn inventory here, which helps us produce our fabrics very quickly, which is an advantage because our customers don't have to wait. A lot of our yarns are skein dyed, which is a labor-intensive process, but it gives the yarns a very deep, rich color, and our fabric's a nice, soft hand. When I'm creating a new fabric, I start with a design, weave in mind, a new yarn that's inspired me, or a mixture of yarns to create a certain texture. There's a computer program I use that links to all the looms, and then I can come down and do some trials on the loom to make sure it's how I envisioned it. Once we do get an order from a customer, we start up their order, compare it to their standard. We keep that in a book up in the office, out of the sunlight. If we don't feel it's within industry standard, we would send a cutting to the customer for their approval. One of the first steps would be to build our warps, a wide variety of different colored warps, different yarn warps. Building a good warp is vital to weaving well-constructed fabric. First step for building our warps is they would load the creel, then draw the yarns through to the reed table. The yarns go through the reed to get put onto the warping wheel parallel. This warp we're building has about 2,000 individual yarns that we'll need to make the warp out of. Once you're complete, it comes back here and gets put on a warp beam, which has to be put on with a large amount of tension. Once we're finished building our warp, it gets trucked into our mill and loaded into the back of the loom, and each individual yarn warp end goes through drop wire, and then it goes through an individual heddle, which is attached to a harness. These are the weft yarns. They go through the feeders and then across the warp through the shed. This is the weave design for this particular pattern, and it's programming the loom to tell which weft yarn to get pulled across and which harnesses to go up or stay down, creating the pattern. So this fabric design for this particular pick is being told to grab this filling yarn, this particular color. The rapier grabs it, clamps on, and brings it halfway across. And the right hand rapier comes to the halfway and takes it from the left the rest of the way across the shed. And then the reed pushes that forward, and then we're on to the next one. And it repeats the process of how it's programmed. Once I feel I have the fabric just the way I wanted, I'll show it to a customer, and once they purchase it, it becomes theirs exclusively.
You know, if Chewy's happy with how something's weaving, he weaves it all, and Maria inspects it and fixes any flaws that she can.
Then it goes to Sergio, who rolls it again, inspects it, and measures it again, so it's exactly what the customer has ordered.
Pacific Weaving has been in business producing fabric for almost 40 years. We plan on being here for at least another 40.